Welcome back to Independent Showcase on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Happy late Easter, or at least at the time of recording. Anyway, this was recorded over Easter. I've got an international superstar on my hands here. We've obviously, if loads of people have watched Independent Showcase, you'll know that we've been to the UK, we've been to Australia, but we're crossing the pond back to America now with Katrina Creed. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I mean, I do the States, but I am primarily based in Montreal. So I do a
Yes.
lot of Canadian dates primarily, but American dates as well. So kind of span it all over North America.
Excellent stuff. Yes, I did. I was forgot to mention that you're Canadian. That was you're based out of Canada. Look, we're into like the first quarter, or nearly, really, we're nearly halfway. Strange, it's scary to think we're nearly halfway through the year when we look
Is
at
it
it.
that strange? How did that happen? It's
I
already
don't.
April somehow, I guess, as of the recording,
Yeah.
which is just nuts.
I find that we've been doing this 3 years, and like I just every time I do an interview, it's like crazy looking back and how far we've come already in the year. But look, we're into to say we're nearly halfway through 2026. How has that been for you so far?
It's been it's been busy, honestly. It's been really good. This year's been really good to me. This last little year in total, I guess starting from April to May of last year has been really good to me. I've been pretty fortunate in the sense that I've only been doing this for a few years
Yeah,
and I've come across a lot of opportunities, which I'm super, super grateful for. It's been treating me nicely so far, for sure.
that's good. That is very good to hear. I want to ask you, where did the name Queen Cobra come about?
So it's oddly enough, I normally put a lot of thought into things when it comes to wrestling. And the Queen Cobra is actually something I didn't put too much thought into. Um, so initially how it started out is like I'm a gamer and I'm a big fan of Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
My favorite, yeah, my favorite video game character is Solid Snake. I love him. I actually have him tattooed on my arm. I'm wearing a sweater, you can't see it, but he's right here. Um, and so when I started, I just thought, kind of just haphazardly, I was like, oh, well, it'd be cool. Not haphazardly, but, without much thought, I thought, I want to be a snake too, like Solid Snake. I just want it to be cool like him. And I'm like, what hasn't really been taken? Kind of the Cobra, there was kind of, the whole gimmick, but not like a full on gimmick that's ever
Yeah.
been taken that was the Cobra, right? So I figured, okay, I'll just be the Cobra. And I didn't think too much of it. I just thought it was a cool name, right? Um, and then pretty much about a year into my career, I won my home feds women's championship. And so I love kind of play on words and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, instead of the King Cobra, I'll just be the Queen Cobra because I thought it was funny. Like that's literally all it was. I'm like, oh, haha. And I just put it as like a name, not thinking it would stick. It was mostly just for a post to like sell some 8x10s because I'm like, yeah, 100 days of me being champ, whatever. And then it just kind of stuck. And now it's like my gimmick. And now I'm like, okay, what would a Queen Cobra do? How would a Queen Cobra move? And now I'm just thinking on like a bunch of different levels of like what this character is. But like, I can't say this was my initial thought as to what I'd be doing as a wrestler when I went into it for sure.
When you come up with that, because you mentioned that the gimmick is still kind of evolving, is that something that will kind of gradually you'll get? You know, you've not necessarily found the sweet spot yet in terms of it. You come to this Queen Cobra gimmick, but how much of it now is sort of there, and how much of it's left still to evolve, if that makes sense?
Right, I hear you. I'm very much someone who's big on evolution in general as a wrestler, as a person. So I just feel like stagnation is kind of one of my greatest fears. So in that sense, I always feel like the character is going to evolve. There's always going to be things to flesh out. Um, I think I have like a foundation of what this character is. Um, and I try to integrate like different things and different components of this character in terms of like, and just into my movements,
Mm.
even the moves that I use, for example, like my finisher is called Lethal Strike, and it's essentially like everything a snake would do. So it's like a ripcord discus lariat. So it's like I
Nice.
literally take the person and like kind of constrict them, and then I spin them around as if I'm turning around them like a snake and then I hit them with a lariat like a strike, right? So it's
Yeah.
I'm still like so there's parts that are there, but there's still things that I'm fleshing out. And as I grow as a wrestler, as I change as a person, there's different things, different ideas that I can have that can add more nuance to the character to take it in a different direction. Like I have ideas
Hmm.
of where I want to take this character ultimately, but still very much a work in progress for sure.
And how much of your, because is it a Muay Thai and kickboxing background that you've got?
Right. So I wouldn't say it's a background. I know it says that on Cage Match, but like I actually started doing Muay Thai kickboxing more so concurrently with
Okay.
wrestling to like keep up my cardio.
Yeah.
I have like almost no athletic background. Why I'm a wrestler, I don't know, but I made it work. But yeah, I do kickboxing and Muay Thai every now and again for cardio reasons as well.
Oh, so that's kind of keeping it so you keep your in-ring shape kind of, ready for a match, so to speak. So you'd use that background to or that training to assist with your in-ring cardiovascular training, so to speak.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it. That is very interesting. I've seen a few people that do it. We've got a wrestler called Corey McRae over here who works in Ignite. He does it, but he does it as an additional thing as well, not just because, but he
Hmm,
works his character base around it, which is where I was going to get at.
nice.
But for some people that say don't know you, what is your in-ring style like? I know you mentioned the Viper and you mentioned the Cobra side of things, sorry, but what is your general in-ring style?
So it's I guess it's something I've been trying to figure out myself, to be honest. I've only been about, I guess, 3.5 years
Yeah.
in total now. So it's still something I'm trying to figure out. I'm still trying out new things. I'm still I have my base move set, but like I still want to always push myself and try newer things. But like I think something I settled on more recently is I'm usually like a heel, right? I'm almost
Yeah.
a career heel.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's a bit more of a psychological aspect to my wrestling sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, like the little things are really important when it comes to, as I mentioned, just character nuances, but also in terms of like footwork and positioning. I try not to waste too many movements in ring. Even when I sell, it's like I'm trying to sell to get to the next place as opposed to like just selling and then moving. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, so I'm very like reflective in that sense. And I try to kind of I play off the person I'm with a lot and try to exploit their weaknesses or even prior to going into a match, I always study my opponent and their moves. And I try to see, how our move sets can work together, what their strengths are, how we can essentially both elevate the match, right? Just by looking
Yeah.
at their work. So I think and also just character wise, I try to like prey on them psychologically in the ring, right? So
Yeah.
there's a bit more of a cerebral component. I'm not sure what you would call that, but other than that, I'm kind of a bit more of an all-arounder. Like I do kind of a mix of strikes. I have some power moves. I started doing more top rope stuff recently, a bit more athletic stuff. So it's kind of a mix when it comes to things like that. But yeah.
In-ring psychologist, perhaps, could be working.
Perhaps, and it works out too. Like I have a background in psychology as well, so hey,
There, there we go.
we'll pretend it worked in this
Hey,
context. But yeah,
we'll definitely pretend it was. So is it kind of like you'll look at their moves, you'll study a few matches, you'll get the gist of what moves that they do, but then part of it is like I could counter that into potentially one of my moves. Is that kind of what you look at
yes,
in a sense? Yeah. Oh,
big
that's
time.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Like especially more so in the finishing stretch where we're
Mm,
kind of looking to escalate like the momentum of a match more so. I think it could be at least for me and how I approach structuring matches. I like putting that stuff towards the end because it's a bit more exciting, where it's like back, forth, and
mm.
reverse this into that until you eventually reach the punch of whatever the move is, right? Um, so yeah, I definitely look at that to see like how our moves can essentially weave into each other as counters. Um, and as well, just like if they have someone, like if I'm starting to also think more of it as I'm becoming more comfortable in my own character. Um, what their character is. If I'm facing someone that has like more of a character as well, okay, like how would my character react to this person? Like and try to play off that a bit more too. But yeah.
It definitely sounds like we said about in-ring psychology and in-ring psychologist, and everything you're saying is definitely around that way. It's like methodical in the ring, really, in,
Hmm.
in a lot of
Yes.
ways, which is really good to see. And you mentioned there, and you made a good point about things about home stretches of matches. And one
Mhm.
of my bugbears over here in the UK is we get too many of home stretching of matches from start to finish, whereas
Right.
I'm very much a fan. Maybe because I'm showing my age, I'm an old man, but I prefer that kind of, I suppose there's the struggle in between, right? You get the start,
Hmm.
and generally the faces. Sometimes the heels will have the opening bit, the faces will then do their bit. Then there'll be what I call a midpoint where the heel will take control for a period of time. In tag matches, it's usually building up to a hot tag, and then that hot tag happens. But single matches, it's like the heel will take over. They may isolate a body part, they may do something for a period of time, and then they'll make a mistake. They maybe get too frustrated. They'll go to the well one too many times of a move and get caught. And then you'll hit that home stretch where those reversals happen. And my biggest bugbear is
Hmm.
it in the UK, it's all about let's do this home stretch for the 15
Hmm.
minutes or 20 minutes that we've got, rather than let's actually build a story into a match. And that's why I'm trying to
Right.
say to my guys, like, it's not always about 68,000 reversals, 95 flips. Let's hit these spot, 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 spot. And again, probably because I'm an old, but I'm very much like sometimes less is more, but it's more
Hmm.
impactful if it happens at a point of a match rather than the whole way through. If you get my drift on that.
For sure. And I very much have the same ideas behind wrestling when it comes to that, what match structure, storytelling,
Mm.
and everything. Um, it's like the way I view it, like, so a lot of my trainers instilled that in me. Jay White, who is the person, it was actually a match of his that inspired me to wrestle.
Mm.
Him as well, he kind of has the same methodology behind his wrestling too, just if you watch his matches.
Yeah.
And my trainers as well very much believe that too. Um, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but one of them is like Speedball Mike Bailey, which a lot of people might think, oh, he's just someone who does like moves, moves, moves. But the way he structures things, as well as Shane Hawk, who's another one of my main
Yeah.
coaches here, but they very much instill in us that like don't do things just to do things. Like, don't even put too many strikes or whatever. Like, make the strikes matter
Mm.
because it's essentially like a law of diminishing returns, right? If you're
Yeah.
doing too much, then eventually you're oversaturating like the focus of people and then whatever and dampening it. So whatever comes after is not going to get the same reaction versus if it's just kind of an elevation and an explosion of what you're trying to build to, right? Um, and very much Speedball and Shane Hawk, both of them, it's like the way they tend to look at match structures, at least basic ones that you can then elaborate on. It's starting off with a shine, right? And then you bring it down here with the heat that's supposed to be a bit boring to essentially get the crowd to be behind the baby face for
Yeah.
when they eventually come out of the comeback. And then from the comeback onwards, you keep going up and up until the finish, right? And it's like very much how I approach match structures. It's like, what are we trying to convey? And what are the moments? I know that's like redundant and everyone says it, but I find it so true. It's like, really, what are the moments that we're trying to build to more so? Whereas the moves around it are just like cushioning that, but it's the moment that we're getting to that we're supposed to let saturate. And that's the most important thing that we're trying to convey to the audience to connect with them, you know? So
Yeah.
that's how I view it as well. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of like a big thing of like I don't like to say moves, but I'm like free moments. So you get that moment at the start. Like I always say like a roller coaster, right? You start them up here,
Yes.
and then you'll have that move that brings it down that notch to what, as you say, that let's say boring bit, but the bit where the heel takes over and has that
Mhm.
5, 6 minutes of just domination, and then there'll be a move that starts that back up to that finishing sequence, and the finishing sequence can take them back down as well. If the heel's going over, then of course you're going to take them back down. But yeah, I always say about three or four. I would say moves, but three or four, as you say, moments. But those moments can be
Mhm.
moves that
Yes.
change the match for me. I like the way you work, and I like the way that you're saying this already because you're kind of like a wrestler that I wouldn't say that I'm boring. No someone's you're boring either. But
Yeah.
like I watch wrestling. I'm not a yay or booer. I'm very much a
Mhm.
tunnel vision. I like watching sequences and I like them how they pan
Mhm.
out. And from what you're saying is I'd very much like to see some of your match. Well, I have seen some of your matches, but in more detail. Like be there.
Mhm.
basically, because I'm very much in when I watch a match, I'm sort of dead eye watching everything, and you kind of have
Mhm.
everything that I would like to see in those matches. So I'm
Mhm.
going to have to do a bit more of watching some of your matches. Hopefully you'll come back over here, and I'll see you again.
I'd love to. I'd
We'll
love
talk
to for
about that
sure.
in a minute, actually, because I know you was over
Yeah.
here. But first things first, you did do a match on Ring of Honor, or at least Honor Club,
Yes.
against Layla Hirsch. How was that? Because
Yes.
at that time, I'm right in thinking AEW had bought Ring of Honor at this point. Was
Yes.
it they had bought it at that point? That's right. And they were because I know they're doing some tapings actually today as we speak, I think, or at least getting close to it. How was that for you being around that environment? Because AEW for me has always got this. I always hear so many good things about them and what they're like. And how was that experience for you? I know it was only a 4 minute match, but it was still
Mhm.
a good learning curve for you, but also a good thing to put yourself out there for those guys at AEW.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I I had such a wonderful time. I've been brought in a few times for extra work, and every time it's been just great. Um, it was also a bit unexpected because
Mhm.
I had done extra work for them previously. But by that point, by the time that I had gotten that match, I was like probably about a year in. I
Yeah.
had like 40 or 50 matches around there, like under my belt. So, and I just thought, okay, I'm doing extra work. It's awesome. They have awesome catering, sick. Like I didn't think I was gonna get chosen for a match. So I was like, hell yeah. Like they have really good food. And it's like I'm a vegetarian, so like they have like pretty good options for vegetarians, like hearty stuff, right? So I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna go there and have some awesome food. And like the ambiance is really cool because like everyone's really nice. Like it's a bit more relaxed, so people are just like really smiley and like you'll be sitting in the viewing area and like wrestlers will come in and sit and just like talk to you and just have conversations. So it's like a really great experience, even just being there. So I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And then they told me that I was chosen. And I was like, uh, oh, okay, right. And I'm like, holy crap, right? So then I started getting nervous. Um, but they put me up against Layla Hirsch, who was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
When when they initially told me, I started panicking a bit because I was like, oh my God, what the hell? And I texted my coach, Shane Hawk. I was like, yo, they're putting me on. Like, what the fuck? I was like really stressed. And he's like, no, they're putting you on for a reason. Layla Hirsch is really nice. You'll see she's like really sweet. Don't worry. Like, you'll be in good hands with her. So I was like, okay. And she very much was super sweet, very giving. They were super giving too, like in the sense that it wasn't just a squash match, it was a
Mm.
bit more of a competitive match. So I actually got some stuff in. Even though I was a little baby at that point, it was super nice of them for them to extend that opportunity to me. A bit stressful though, because I was a face and I don't normally have
Ah,
practice being a face. So I was
yeah.
like, oh, this is not even something I do either, but it worked and everyone was happy with it. She was happy with it, very sweet. Um, it was honestly like just I couldn't believe it, and it was such a great moment, such a great memory, something I still reflect on. And I'm just always so grateful for the opportunities that they've extended to me. It's been really awesome.
Did you do anything beforehand? Because then you got chosen. So you went there assuming you were going to be an extra. Obviously, you took your gear with you as you would normally.
Of course,
Any
yeah.
wrestler that we say, any wrestler that comes to any of our shows, well, yeah, bring your gear because you never know what's going on. So you obviously bring your
For
gear
sure.
there. Did you have to do anything prior to that, or did you just get selected?
We just got selected. So I think at that point it was my second time doing extra work for them. They don't come up to Canada too often,
No.
like sometimes it's after a year, year and a half. But they had been around here in the summer and I'd done 2 days with them. It was like back to back.
Hmm.
And then that was like my second full time being with them. And yeah, I just thought, we were just hanging out and like it was around like 4 or 5 p.m. So I know they were selecting people, but I wasn't sure. And then Sean Dean, who's the guy who's in
Yeah.
charge of like recruiting extras and all of that, just came up to me and he's like, "Hey, you're on with Layla," and I'm like, "Well, what?" Like, good thing I didn't eat just in case, because like you never know. But now I'm like, damn, I'm really hungry. So I'm like, it's okay, it'll be fine. The nerves and the adrenaline will take over. I won't even feel it. But yeah, so it was just very much like that. We were just kind of like talking and hanging out, and you just get selected like that. So yeah,
Wow. Oh man.
yeah, it was stressful.
Oh, I don't know. I could have took that. That is crazy. Like just to come up to you and go, "Hey, by the way, you're wrestling in a bit." Oh my God, that would. But an incredible
Yeah.
moment, as you say, right? And one that you
Oh,
hold
yes.
really dearly to you, which you should. You've done a lot of work for, is it IWS? Is that
Yeah.
you do a lot of work for
Yes.
them? So when you sort of, you come back from you come back and you obviously you learn a lot in that time. How much of that do you then
Mhm.
take into your next matches? Say, for example, at IWS for that matter.
Well, I mean, I think it was pretty cool because it was like we were coming up with a few ideas of like how certain things could work into other
Hmm.
moves. Kind of reversals in a sense, but like a bit less
Yeah.
intensive than if you're putting it in the finishing stretch there. But it was just more interesting ways of getting into the same thing, which I'm big on, like I find interesting. So it was just taking a lot of those components and applying it to future matches that I had. Um, IWS is actually my home fed. It's where I
Hmm.
trained. It's where I got my first title. You know, they
Yeah.
gave me so many opportunities and gave me such a huge platform, um, to do all of these things. And I feel like I've done a lot in my career in the short amount of time that I've been in it. And a huge part comes to IWS and for them like really being behind me and taking a chance on me so early on in my career, and giving me such a big platform to essentially like carry the women's division as their champion so early on, because it is like arguably like one of the biggest feds in Canada, right?
Mm.
So it was a lot of pressure initially, and I felt like in almost my whole career, I feel like I'm put into a lot of situations that are high pressure. And I'm getting used to it now. But at first, and that being one of the opportunities, it was a bit intense. And it was like learning how to manage, these essentially high stakes while I'm learning how to be a performer, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm in my infancy and I'm like essentially balancing these like sometimes high profile matches against like bigger names or just being on these bigger platforms and learning how to balance that and grow while not disappointing my trainers and making sure that they don't regret essentially investing in me. But great experiences for sure.
When they said to you that they're putting that championship on you for when you that was your first, you say your first championship, what was that
Mhm.
feeling like? This is your promotion, you say you've trained there, you've kind of earned your stripes there, and then they say to you, Kat, we're putting that gold on you. Is it a scary moment? Is it exciting? How was that moment in your mind for you at that point?
It was at the time I was exhilarated when I first learned about it. Um, I just couldn't believe it because like for me, when I initially started wrestling, I thought it was going to be something I would do like every now and again, once every
Mm.
few weeks, just to have fun. And then my main goal was to win the IWS Women's Championship. And I think I was somewhere close to like 30 matches in when they decided to put it on me, right? So that was kind of like the main goal that I had for my career. And then to get it so early on when my coach told me, I was like, holy shit, like I just couldn't believe it. And I was thrilled. And then, so I was super excited when they first told me for sure. And well, IWS also, oddly enough, one of the few places I'm a face. So there's also that part too, where it was like one of the bigger platforms, and I'm a face, and I'm like, cool, I got to figure this out too. When almost all of my practices as a heel, which for some reason happens to me a lot. Like Eve as well, I was a
Yeah.
face, and I'm like, cool, we'll figure it out. Um, but yeah, so it's also like it was also a bit of pressure too, after a bit of time because I felt like, okay, they're entrusting this with me and there's a reason and I don't want to disappoint them. And especially because the booker is my trainer,
Mm.
it's like doubly, I don't want to disappoint the promoter or booker. And I especially don't want to disappoint my coach. Like I want to make them proud. Um, so there was like this pressure that, might have been self-induced, but overall pressure for sure to just deliver every time. And also just to make sure that like I was elevating the people I'm with. Like I go into all of my matches to see like I don't know if it's something I think intentionally, but when I've reflected on it more, I go into every match trying to see how we can both come out of it better, right?
Yeah.
And so, especially because the women's division are primarily women I train with and that I know or that I'm friends with, like I especially want to make it so that we all come out of it better. So there was like that pressure too. Um, but it was a great experience overall for sure.
Excellent. And we talk about Eve now because we mentioned it twice. Obviously, you took on Chantel Jordan, and she's a heavy kicker
Yeah.
and a heavy hitter. But what
Yeah.
would you make of? Yeah, she really, really is. Obviously, Eve is an all-women's wrestling promotion. For those people that don't know it, Dan Reed and someone that people may know, the aerial assassin Will Ospreay, are very heavily involved. In this, they've done a really good show at the O2 on the Indigo at the O2 on International Women's Day.
Mhm.
Doing tremendous things, and women's wrestling's always been a forefront of what we believe in here on this channel as well. But talk about that moment because obviously, look, you're going into a company here that is a all women promotion, which is fantastic. What was the memories like of you getting in there with Chantel, and what was that whole day with you with Eve like for you as a whole?
It was fantastic. Also, just another memory that I really treasure. Um, it was actually pretty wild because like I initially wanted to go to the UK for different wrestlers, but including Will Ospreay, who I think is
Mm,
obviously phenomenal. And so I thought, okay, it'd be cool just to check out the scene. I've heard so many good things, especially about women wrestlers in the UK scene.
yeah.
I've heard like extraordinary things and I've seen it. So I'm like, I definitely want to implicate myself and just kind of see what it's all about. And when I was going there, I was like cold calling a bunch of promoters and I'm like, here are some matches. And like almost no one got back to me, right? I thought I was doing so well back home that I'm like, oh, like they'll see my stuff and they'll want to book me, right? But not realizing at the time that, that's cool and everything, but wrestling very much works by word of mouth, right?
Mm.
And I think the reason I was doing so well here is because like people talk about you, right? But people don't know who the hell I am over there. So cool match, whatever. Like we got our people here, you know what I mean? So Eve was actually one of the few people that got back to me. And they said that they they could try to work something out, but they had some people who were coming in from Japan. They were also having like a type of retirement show for a couple of talents who were retiring that
Mhm.
show as well. So it was a bit tight, but it's a possibility. And so as it was coming closer to the date that I was supposed to leave, I wasn't sure if I was going to go initially, but I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and fly out there and I'm going to hope for the best. And if not, I'm going to go and I'm going to train there and I'm going to be trained by like some of the best talent over there. I'll gain some knowledge and get some reps in. And then that's something I could take home with me, right? So it's still an experience and hopefully something else comes out of it. But if not, like I'm cool with that. And so I went in with that in mind. And I showed up to Eve to like just show up and help out and stuff. And as it turns out, some of the talent couldn't make it in from Japan. So there was a bit of space, and then they were going to put me on. So I was like, oh, that's sick, right? Which I found out when I was there. Um, and then as I'm like hanging out, who walks in but Will Ospreay, right? Which at that point he had just started producing maybe a couple of months before, so I wasn't in the know, right? And he's one of the main reasons I was in the UK, right? And this is an all women's promotion, so I'm not expecting Will Ospreay to walk in there, but he just walked in, and I was like, "What the heck? What?" Like I just couldn't believe it, right? So I'm like, here I am in England, I'm in London, I got a match, Will Ospreay's here, and he's helping us like helping everyone produce the match. I was like, my mind was just blown. Um, and then that's when I met Chantal, who's very, very sweet,
Yeah.
super lovely to work with her. And Sapphire Reed was actually there too. So she, I think at that point, might have had an injury of sorts. So she
Yes.
wasn't wrestling, but she was
Shoulder.
managing Chantal.
Mm.
Yes, I think so. So she was managing Chantal. So it was really awesome getting to meet both of them and working with both of them. And the match itself was really fun. I had such a great time. Uh, Everyone seemed really happy with it. We were really happy with it. It was just such a lovely time. Such a great thing to be a part of. I met so many cool people while I was there. Debbie Keitel, very, very sweet, super helpful chick. I met Martina, who I love. So Martina's awesome. I adore her. And we got on super good. And so uh, the next week I was actually going to go to Ireland, which is where she's from.
Yeah.
So then when I was in Ireland, I was just hanging out with Martina for like a chunk of the time, which was awesome. And it was just honestly such a great experience. I had such a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's always a great fun, and Sapphire is a ball of energy.
Hmm.
Now she's
Yeah.
hyperactive with her friend Anita, and
Yeah.
wow,
Anita. Yeah.
They're a handful. Them two. They're certainly they certainly are a handful, but very, very, very talented. Um,
For
there's
sure.
one last one before I'm going to start the questions that I've got for you, the random
Mhm.
ones. We've got one more question though for mystery wrestling. Now this is run by
Oh
Evil
yeah.
Uno. Of so did
Yes.
anything so I know it was about a year or so later, but did it span from anything that you've done at Ring of Honor? Did you meet Evil Uno there? How did that all come about?
So it was actually, it's funny because this interview is just a lot of just me showing up and it working out, but this was one of those things. So Udo was kind of, he lives around here. I think right
Yeah.
now he's actually in Detroit, but prior to that, he was more so in our area, which is where
Mhm.
Mystery Wrestling still runs primarily.
Yeah.
So I was just starting off, like, I think actually when I think about it, I think my first Mystery Wrestling match, I think was right before Ring of Honor, like a month or two, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. And so I really, had it in my mind. I'm like, okay, one of my plans for this year is branching out into Ontario a bit more. So I'm just gonna like show face and show up and see what happens. And so my friend Christera, who is an amazing wrestler and one of my good friends, she was going to Mystery Wrestling and she told me about it. And I don't know if she suggested it or I did. But then I hopped in a car with her, right?
Hmm.
And I was just like, I'll show up and see what happens. And the guy that we are with, he's like, I'm not gonna name who he is, but I doubt he'll listen to this. But if he does, I mean, he knows his rep, but he's like kind of late often to like everything, right? And he was all right. So we were coming in with him, and we were late, and so I think she was supposed to be like the first match or something, and then she was telling Uno it's like she's gonna come in, but it's tight. And then he's like, "Oh, who's in the car with you?" And she's like, "Oh, Katrina Creed." And he's like, "Okay, we'll put you on." So, um, which was like super stressful because it wasn't a sure thing until we got there. And this is like Mystery Wrestling and Evil Uno, who I didn't know super well at that point. Um, and since then he's given me so many opportunities and been just wonderful to me. But at the time I didn't know him, right? So when I got there and then I found out, oh, we're on, I was like super stressed. I was like, oh shit, so that means we're actually having a match. Okay, cool. Luckily it was Christera who I trained with. I worked matches with her before, so that was cool. But a lot of stress going into it because you want to impress. And then uh not long before that, actually, Gringo Loco was on the card in the main,
Hmm.
and his opponent, his flight was like super late. So before we went out, Uno was like, "Hey, um, if you guys can, try to wrestle a bit more to buy us some time." And I'm like, "Okay, I figured this out on the fly." So like a lot of that match, parts of it were just improv and us just adding some stuff to buy some time. So like the heat is way longer than I would have done it normally, but I'm like, we got to figure something out here. So we did. But yeah, no, it was really great, wonderful. And then, Uno was gracious enough to give me so many amazing opportunities after that. He's been really good to me as well and just given me so much. And given the community around us like so much, the wrestlers around us, he really tries to like use essentially his star power and like his background in AEW and everything that he has to help everyone around him to try to elevate the wrestlers that are trying to break in. So he's been wonderful in a lot of ways.
Brilliant. Moral of the story, people, attend many local wrestling shows if you're a wrestler and
Yeah.
bring your gear because you just
Yeah.
never know. You never know.
Honestly,
We've had it. We've had it at
100%.
Ignite. We've had it at Ignite when someone brought
Mhm.
his gear and he got an opportunity because something could happen. It does happen. Right.
Oh yeah.
Now, I was going to play a new game, but you mentioned that you're vegan, which ruins
Yeah.
my
Well,
food
vegetarian,
game.
but well, I can eat cheese and stuff and eggs, there's I can figure it out. I don't
Mate,
know if that like
nah.
cancels everything, but
No, no, we'll
eh.
cancel the food game because that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
okay.
I've got plenty of others. Don't worry. So those are people that know that have seen this series will know that I do ask some random wrestling questions as part of this as well. So we're going to start with that because
Sure.
that's quite simple. Um, so we all know that wrestling is the great thing about wrestling is theme music. But when I ask this question, it tends to get people thinking. Because everyone says, "Who's
Mhm.
your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers? Who's your Mount Rushmore?" But what is your Mount Rushmore of wrestling theme songs?
Wow. That's a new one. I did love Moxley's theme when
Hmm.
he first started at AEW.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that one. And I'm like, man, if he wasn't using that, like I'd use it.
Well,
Like
he
I
changed to
can't.
Wild Thing, didn't he, after that? He had the
He
song and
did.
then he went to Wild Thing, didn't he? Yeah.
He did. He did. But I loved his first like song. I listened to that a ton. I did really. I don't know if it's a Mount Rushmore because, like, honestly, I would have to sit and really think about it because there are so many good themes. So, I this isn't my top, but these are definitely like
Yeah.
themes that I'm into. I loved Pete Dunne's like Bruiserweight theme.
Yes.
When like, yeah, that was also awesome. I love Pete Dunne. I think he's great.
My co-host, they used to live quite near him in when Pete Dunne was over here, obviously in the
Oh
UK.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
Oh
yeah.
no.
I live quite near Will Ospreay, funnily enough, actually. About 20
Oh.
minutes away
Oh, there
in
you go.
Essex. Yeah, there we
That's
go.
that's
So you got
funny.
Bruiserweight, you've got John
Yeah.
Moxley's first theme in AEW.
Yeah. Again, not the top, but I love these
No?
tunes. So I actually did a seminar with Shayna Baszler a couple weeks ago.
Ah, yes.
I loved her theme in NXT. Her NXT run
Yes.
was awesome. I was like so behind her in NXT. I thought she was sick. But that theme was also sick. Um, I guess if
Well,
there's a fourth one,
yeah.
I have to go with this because as a Canadian, I think it's almost sacrilege to not go with this or to not love this guy. But Bret Hart's theme, obviously, Bret Hart is my dude. I adore him, just his realism and intensity and everything he does in the ring. I think he's fantastic. But his theme, I have to go with that as a Canadian for sure.
Yeah, you'd be in trouble. I was lucky it was either that or Jericho's. You'd have to have said one of the two.
Mm,
Right.
yeah,
Jericho
for
literally
sure,
just coming back, well, last
as
week on
well,
AEW in
as
Winnipeg,
well.
as of all places, of all
Yeah.
places. So he did make a comeback at his hometown. So in from there, we go for Katrina Creed's table for free. You get a table for dinner with three wrestlers or wrestling personalities, past or
Mm.
present, living or no longer living with us. Who's your three that you're choosing to have around the dinner table?
For sure, William Regal,
Yeah.
because the times that I've met him, he just has so much knowledge about just everything wrestling wise in terms of things you can do, ways you can elevate yourself as a performer, history and things like that, and just all these really interesting anecdotes. And I've been lucky to just listen to get to him talk like at different points, and it's just he has so much to offer, and you could tell, and he's just so engaging. And it's like I can listen to that guy talk and just try to pick his brain about different things for sure. So Regal for sure. Hmm. I was trying to think in terms of like making it funny or like in terms of just like trying to learn more and absorb more knowledge.
Well, William Regal would
Um,
certainly help with facial expressions.
oh, yep. Certainly, certainly. Um, let's see. Huh. Now I'm trying to think. I do I wonder. Um, hmm. I do adore Bret Hart. I just love him.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I'm not sure in terms of like I would just love to be able to pick his brain in terms of just everything, I definitely hold him on a pedestal. So he's someone I don't know, like when I'm thinking of this, I'm not necessarily thinking of like how the vibe would be for like all of us together. It's really me selfishly just
That's
picking their
it.
brains individually to learn
Yeah.
more. So he'd be one too. Also, random side note, I was just having this conversation with people like a week or two ago, but what's really interesting about Bret Hart is that like he's someone who he's so engaging and he just had this natural charisma to him, but he never really did anything to be charismatic. When you think about it, like if you think of like face wrestlers or whatever, they kind of try to get the crowd or something. He never did that, which
No,
I only started thinking about as a wrestler, but he never did any of that. And yet somehow he was so compelling. Like to me, he was so engaging and I find that really interesting. And I just also, I don't even know if this is something he's aware that he does or how he does it, but I just kind of want to like understand how he's able to convey that without even trying to get the crowd during his in-betweens. He just wrestles and it's engaging. And I'm
That's
like,
it.
fuck yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, see,
Um,
bit like you, see, he's an
yeah,
in-ring psychologist, right? That's what Brad's very
hmm
good at. He does very, very good at doing it.
for
And he tell you, if you ask him a question, you'll get a long-winded answer. So you got to have long notes. Yeah, a lot of notes.
for
He,
sure. I will take out my notepad and
oh yeah,
write them
you
all
need a
down
whole
for
A4
sure.
for that. Yeah, he said. I've been to an evening with Brett, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was 10, 15 minutes to every question he answered. So he
Oh
was
yeah. Oh
very,
god.
very long-winded. But you got one more anyway, one more person
Yeah.
sitting around the dinner table.
Um, I guess because like we just brought him up and he made his appearance last week or his return rather to AEW, and he seems like just a funny dude to have around with lots of awesome stories. Chris Jericho, I
Yeah.
feel like he would be a laugh and he would be so much fun to talk to. Just also in terms of learning, but just to like he seems like he's just a great conversation, so that would be awesome for
You
sure.
can have a little bit of the bubbly with him, right? That's what
Yeah, that's
that's what he
it.
did. Last question before I move on to a new game that we play, or a new game that we're going to play. If you could have a band play you out at a show, what would be your band, your choice of band to play you?
Well, I mean, I guess just like logically, I'd probably go with like the band that does my entrance music, which is In This Moment, who
Mhm.
I'm actually not like huge on. As I was picking out music, something just told me that this band was going to have what I was looking for, and the
Hmm.
song just fit perfectly for what I was going for. Um, but yeah, I mean, I figured they would have to play me out. So In This Moment, for sure.
What, just a side though on that, like when you're selecting wrestling music, how important is it that it does go into what your character's like?
I think it's super important. Like I would say like the lyrics, for example, of that song, I think some of them don't really have to do with my character,
Hmm.
whereas like some of them do. But in terms of just the sound and the feeling and ambiance it gives, I feel like is suited to what I'm trying to present. And I think it's super important to just kind of essentially have this cohesiveness between, your body of work and what you're trying to convey through your actual body, right? And your
Yeah.
presentation, as well as the music that like pretty much announces what you're bringing forth to the audience. So yeah,
There we go. Interesting. I love to have. So, is it In This Moment? What's the song actually called? Is there a
it's
particular
called Adrenalize.
Adrenalize? I'm going to write that down. So I want to read
Hmm.
it. I'm going to put it in this.
Yeah,
Adrenalize. Okay.
it's a
So
bop.
a new game that we're going to play on the channel
Mhm.
now. So look, listen. Will
Cool.
Ospreay's from Essex, but he will appreciate this. If you get any booking again, you'll be able to impress him with this.
Okay, cool.
So this is something that we call in London. There's a particular, I don't say language, but there's a particular way of talking called Cockney rhyming slang. Now, what that is that it's two words together that rhyme with the word that you're trying to make. Now, I said to you one earlier on when I said if I say pork pies to you, pork pies rhymes with eyes, right? So that gives you a clue. So okay, I've got three for you. I'm going to try not to give you a clue because it kind of gives it away. But the first one is Frog and Toad.
Hmm. Mode?
No, it's Road.
Oh, darn. Okay.
Close, close, close. You
Yeah.
got any? The next one is Apples and Pears.
Bears?
No, Stairs. Very close. Yeah,
Shoot.
you're
How?
getting there. You're getting the gist of
Apple
the
and
game, though. Apples and
at
pears
least, at
there.
least.
But you're getting the gist of it, right? I'll give you one more,
Yeah.
then we'll start to wrap up. Okay. Dog and Bone.
Well, now I'm gonna think too hard about it. Huh. Well, fine. I'll just go with my first thought. Phone.
Did you say phone?
Yeah.
You got
No,
it.
actually?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
real?
dog and bones phone. Yeah, it's absolutely yeah. I've got to find my
What?
dog and bone. Yeah. So next
Whoa.
time you see Will, or you're over in Eve, there you go. You can give him some Cockney rhyming slang. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. Brilliant. We
Awesome.
got 1 out of 3. I tell you, I didn't expect you to get any.
Hey,
There you go.
me neither.
Well done. Awesome job. Right.
Hey.
As we start to wrap up, look, when I've spoken to wrestlers in the past, some of them have the end goal or the end game for them and what it is. Some of them have short, medium, and long-term targets. Some of them set short targets. Some of them set no targets at all. But between now and say the end of 2026, have you got any particular targets or milestones that you want to reach?
Yes. There's one where, and it's kind of my main one, but I kind of have to keep it. I don't know. It's like not something I could
Yep,
maybe elaborate on
sure.
so much. So we'll see, how that turns out. Um, but I just really want to primarily like branch out. Um, you know, in some of the companies or some of the areas that I haven't been to more so. So
Mhm.
I was going into the States a bit more so before. So that's something that I definitely have in the back of my mind. As well as kind of like reinforcing, I guess, my presence a bit more back home. I've been lucky, honestly, in the opportunities that I've been given. Like I realize how lucky I am. Um, Sometimes when I say that, people think I'm undercutting myself, which I'm not. Like I've been
Mm.
relentless in my pursuit of this, and I really try to apply myself to the best of my capabilities. But like I realize how lucky I am because it's also a matter of being at the right place at the right time and just knowing the right people. And it's taken me to so many different places that I never would have imagined. Like I was in Japan in February for a month. I never would have thought starting off that I'd be doing that. So it's like I've been lucky in the sense that it's brought me outside of my normal territory, I guess. And I've been kind of emphasizing that a lot more, which is cool. But it's like I do want to kind of get back more in touch with my home feds a bit more and spend a bit more time just going around those feds too, because I think there's an importance there. They were there for my foundation as my base and just returning to that too, for sure.
Excellent stuff. And lastly, before we let you go, look, if you are, what have you got coming up that you can announce, and how can promoters reach out and book you for their shows?
Yeah, so I do in May have a few bookings. So it's
Okay.
primarily around my area, so
Mhm.
Montreal, Ottawa,
Yeah.
including IWS, my home fed, Acclaim, where I'm currently women's champion. So I have those as well as a few others coming up, one with MLB out in Valleyfield. And to reach out to me, I mean, social media works, email works as well. Social media, I'm on most platforms. So um, on Twitter or X. I'm Katrina Creed, so as it's spelled there.
Yeah.
On Facebook, same thing, but obviously there's a space between Katrina and Creed. On Insta and TikTok, I'm cat with a K dot Creed with a C, because there are somehow Katrina Creeds on
Wow.
TikTok and Insta, and I'm like, who does someone actually exist with that as like their name, their proper name, which is pretty sick, honestly, but I have to like buy them out or something. I don't know. So if I could, but yeah, either of those platforms or on any of those rather, as well as my email, which it's katrina.creed.rassles. So it's
Yes.
thought it was funny. I was like, yeah, Rassles. So it's WRASSLES at gmail.com. So that's my booking email that I send to bigger companies now. So yeah, that's my email.
To go and get Katrina booked on your shows for sure. But before we go, but coming up on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, got a big thank TNA for the most recent round of media. We had some great fun with Eddie Edwards and Harley Hudson, the UK's own Harley Hudson. So I must say, being biased, it's nice to have a Brit on the show every now and again when we do those media. So nice to, but we will take anyone from TNA, of course. A big thanks to TNA for that. And coming up, we've got Marco Stunt, who's just reunited with Jack Perry in GCW. Marco will be coming on very, very soon. So we're looking forward to having him on the show. And of course, our championship is on the line. Yes, Hitting a Turnbuckle does have a championship. It is on the UK scene. It is at Ignite Wrestling, and we got a show May 3rd at the end game, and it will be our new Grand Slam champion, Chris Aries, Mr. Happy, because like the comet, he smiles every 2,000 years. So we still haven't got him to smile yet, even though he's the first ever Grand Slam champion at Ignite. But he'll be defending the Turnbuckle Championship against Denzel Mack. We do have Tommy Tanner, the new Ignite champion. Who's he? Oh, Joe Lando from CPF. So he'll be on the card as well. The breakout division, AJ Payne and Regan Blade. Whew, you blink and you miss that one when we see that. And the returning Aluna. the former turnbuckle champion. She'll be making her return against Violet Knight, plus a couple more matches, plus the fallout from Chapter 5 between General Manager CJ Carter and former Ignite champion Taylor James, which did spill into the foyer on the last show. So we have to apologize to the fans of that again. It was not very nice at all. And I had to get involved, which is something that I do not want to be doing anymore. But Katrina, it's great being speaking to you. Look, we wish you best of luck. Hopefully
Likewise.
you'll come over here again. Listen, if you come up here and we got an Ignite day, I've got a championship you can come for. I mean, there is
Oh,
always
hey.
that. There's always that. But we
Better
do
watch
wish
out.
you, yes, and hopefully Eve will have you back and we'll get down to Walthamstow and see you there as well. But look, all the very best. We wish you the best of luck for the remaining part of 2026. Get Katrina booked on your shows. Promoters. I actually might have a promoter. I'll talk to you afterwards on this. But anyway, follow us at HTT Buckle everywhere. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and good night.